Jai Gurudev. Welcome to the Memorial Study series in the memory and honor of our Gurudev. We are in the last leg of first chapter, Early Sources of ShavismI, in Gurudev's book, The Greatest Work. We will enter together and witness the revelation by the Gurudev after invocation to the Guru Parampara. Let's bow down in the lotus feet of our great Guru Parampara together. अगाध संशयाम्बोधि समुतरण तारिणी वंदे विचित्रयार्थ पदा चित्रां तां गुरु भारतीम् सदा सदानुग्रह निग्रह गृहीतमुनि विग्रहो भगवान् सर्वासामुपनिषदां दुर्वासा जयति नैसिकः प्रथमः त्र्यम्बका विहित संतति ताम्रपर्णी सन्मार्थिक प्रकार कांति विशेष भाजः जयंती गुरु शास्त्र सिंधु कललोलकेली कलनामल कर्णधारा जयति गुरुरेक एव श्री श्रीकंठो प्रथितः परमूर्तिर्भगवान् महेश्वरो भूतिराजश्च श्री सोमानंद श्रीमत उत्पल श्रिताः जयन्ति संविदा आमोद संदर्भा दिक् प्रसर्पिणः तद आस्वाद भरावेश प्रमहिता मति षट्पदीं गुरुर्लक्ष्मण गुप्तस्य पाद सम्मोहिनी नुमः सदा अभिनवगुप्तं यत्पुराणं च प्रसीदमता दयं तत्परो उल्लासय स्वयं आस्फुर्जे अनुत्तरम् अभिनवरूपा शक्तिः तदगुप्तो यो महेश्वरो देवः तद उभयामलरूपम् अभिनवगुप्तं शिवं वन्दे यः पूर्णानन्दविश्रान्त सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पारगः श्रीक्षेमराजः सो दृश्यादृष्टं मे गुरुतमः श्रीवसुगुप्त महागुरु सोमानंद प्रभु उत्पल आचार्यन् नवगुप्तं नाथं वन्दे श्रीक्षेमराजश्च नमो निखिल मालिंग विलास पनपटियसे महामहेश्वराय श्रीरामाय गुरुर्मूर्तये जय गुरुदेव। नमः कारुण्य देहाय धीराय शुभदन्ति मे भक्ति गम्याय भक्तानां दुःखहर्त्रे ते नमस्तुते ते यस्य उन्मेषनिमेषाभ्यां जगतः प्रलयोदयोः तं शक्ति चक्रविभं प्रभवम् शङ्करमस्तु महा नमः शिवाय सततं पंचकृत्य विधायिने चिदानन्दघं स्वात्म परमार्थ अवभासिना आस्यानं चित्रस्योघं साकारतमुपागतम् जगद्रूपतया वन्दे प्रत्यक्षं भैरवं वपुः ॐ आनन्दसुन्दर पुरन्दर मुक्तमाल्यं मौलोहटेन निहितं महिषासुरस्य पादाम्बुजम् भवतु मे विजयाय माचिरसिञ्चित् मनोहरम् अम्बिका शीर्षा पुरुष पुनातु वः सहस्राक्षुर्भगवान् सहस्रपाता वने अङ्गीघ्रीणमूले नयने च निश्चला त्रयो अपायामि यमपुरुषा उपासते ॐ सन्नो मित्रः संवरुणः सन्नो भवते हर्यमा सन्नो इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः सन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वाय त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म असि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि नित्यं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मा अवतु तत्त्वाकारम् अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय गुरुदेव। Now going to start where we left last lecture. We are in the first chapter only, and the slide we will start, that would be the mysterious experience. Before entering into the revelation by the Gurudev, let's immerse into the Bhairav consciousness. I'm reciting 3 times the Bhairav Bhagavad mantra. अघोरेभ्यो घोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरिभ्याश्च सर्वथा सर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते रुद्ररूपेभ्यः घोरेभ्यो घोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरिभ्याश्च सर्वथा सर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते रुद्ररूपेभ्यः घोरेभ्यो घोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरिभ्याश्च सर्वथा सर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते रुद्ररूपेभ्यः जय गुरुदेव। Now we will start with this idea of the mystical experiences. So, if I recall, we stop at Shiva as a supreme yogi, Shiva yogi, in the previous slide, in the previous section. He was the ideal. He was the ideal ascetic who represents the meditation, who represents the self-mastery, and who represents the spiritual discipline. That's the Shiva. Now we are moving one step further. One step further we are moving. If yoga is the path, then mystical experience is often considered as goal, siddhi. So here we are trying to capture this one because it's the one of the most important aspect of Shaivism, the mystical experience. So mysticism, the Rahasyavad, mysticism is not merely a belief system. It is a direct experience of the spiritual reality. So this is where philosophy becomes experience, and where religion becomes realization. So now I am taking you through this concept. Let us begin with a simple question. Simple question. What is a mystical experience? Think for a while. What is a mystical experience? So a mystical experience is an experience in which a person feels, first, direct contact with the ultimate reality. Second, union with the divine. And third, transcendence of the ordinary consciousness. And fourth one, the deep inner awareness. So unlike ordinary knowledge, mystical knowledge is not gained through books, not gained through logic, not gained through argument. That's why the bhakti, the mysticism is the tarkatit, so beyond the logic, beyond the book is knowledge. You cannot reach there through merely reading the books. And beyond the arguments, Bad Vivad, if you do a lot of Bad Vivad arguments, then also it will take you to nowhere. Instead, it comes through direct experience. So can reading about sweetness ever be a same tasting a sugar? That's the question. If you are reading about the sweetness, so is it giving a taste of sugar? Absolutely no. There are in the Sufism, like it's a, if you are like पानी पानी रटते रटते प्यासा ही मर जा, something like that. If you recite some names, that name only, can it give that taste, that experience? That is the question. Similarly, the mystical argument, mystical traditions argument, reading about God is different from the experiencing the divine. That is the question. Here, this is not question on the Naam Japa, because you are doing the Jap, the recitation, slowly, you are going to the higher and higher consciousness and meeting with the divine. That is the process. That is the Ana Upaya. Here, the only thing where I am trying to hitting out, only merely reading about the God and experiencing the God, these are two different things. So this distinction is central to the Saiva philosophy. Saiva philosophy is talking about the experience, the real experience, the direct experience, the mystical experience. I'm starting with the first point, transcending ordinary reality. So what does really, try to think, what does really transcending ordinary reality. Means ordinary reality. You have to cross the ordinary reality. So what is the ordinary reality? So normally through the senses, we experience the world. Through these eyes, we are just seeing the world around us. Through this ear, just listening to the sound, and thoughts we have, emotions we have, we perceive the world around us. So normally, a normal human being is experiencing the world through these senses. We perceive ourselves. We perceive ourselves as a separate individual living in a material world. Mystical tradition claim that this ordinary perception is limited. They argue, Saivas argue that deeper levels of reality exist, and how we gonna perceive them through meditation, through yoga, through a spiritual discipline. One can transcend ordinary consciousness. One example, imagine standing near an ocean. You are just standing near the ocean. At the surface, waves appears separate. But underneath, all waves belong to the same ocean. So mysticism claim human beings are like waves. We appear separate, but at the deeper level, we are connected at a greater reality, and this realization is called transcendence. This is the definition of transcendence. This is the concept of transcendence. So in Shaivism, transcendence means moving beyond ego, moving beyond ordinary perception, and experiencing the cosmic consciousness represented by Shiva, the universal consciousness, the Bhairav consciousness. Thus, Shiva is not simply worshipped externally, he is realized internally. So, if I ask question, are our senses always reliable? What we are seeing or what we are listening? So, are our senses always reliable? That is the philosophical question. Like I'm giving you the examples from the optical illusion, from physics, like a stick appears bent in the water, refraction, but that stick is not bent. In fact, the sun appears to move around the earth, but is it true? So what we perceive is not always ultimate truth. That's why philosophers, gurus from our parampara, our Sanatan parampara, therefore argue ordinary consciousness is limited. They prove that one. The ordinary consciousness is limited. Mystical experience reveals a deeper dimension of reality. This becomes a central idea, not only in Shaivism, in Upanishad, in yoga, as well as in Shaivism. Now come to the second point, direct spiritual insights. So mystics claim that ultimate truth cannot be understood only intellectually, because it's beyond the buddhi. Knowledge has two forms. One is the direct knowledge, and one is the indirect knowledge. So indirect knowledge, that is coming from reading books, listening to the teachers, or learning the concept. But the direct knowledge that is coming from the personal experience, immediate awareness, or from the spiritual insight. So mystical tradition emphasize on the second category of knowledge, the direct knowledge. Giving you an example, like a map can show you where a mountain is. But looking at a map, if you are looking at the map, a map is not same as climbing the mountain. So on the map, you are seeing this is the mountain. Similarly, if you're going really on the field and climb on the mountain, then you will get the experience. So similarly, studying Saiva philosophy is valuable, but mystical experience means direct realization of Shiva. So both Gyan and Paurus Gyan, both is coming, then only we can reach up to the realization. So in Shaivism, spiritual insight is called self-realization or recognition, prativijna, awakening of consciousness. Especially in Kasmir Shaivism, in our Shaivism, liberation occurs through recognizing oneself, recognizing one's true identity as a Shiva consciousness. Shivo Aham. Shivo Aham. Shivo Aham through prativijna. Now the third point is the inner realization. So Indian spirituality repeatedly emphasizes truth lies within. So truth lies within. So this idea appears everywhere in the Indian philosophy. Either it is Upanishad, or it is yoga, or it is tantra, or it is Shaivism. Everywhere you will go, you will find this one. This concept, this is the central concept. So the journey becomes inward rather than outward. Our Gurudev always saying, see the journey of inward, internalization, journey of the internalization, not going outward. So what is the inner realization? Inner realization means recognizing what you are going to recognize. One's true nature, the nature of consciousness, the divine presence within. That is the meaning of the inner realization. That's why mystics are coming and mystics are claiming the greatest temple is not outside. The greatest tirth is not outside. Kasi is not outside. Kailash is not outside. The greatest temple is human consciousness itself. That's why this mystics are coming with this Sahasra, the Shiva resides. So Shiva becomes inner awareness. Shiva becomes pure consciousness. Shiva becomes the deepest self. Thus, the spiritual practice becomes self-discovery. Now, the spiritual practice is self-discovery on, nothing else. You have to discover yourself. You have to recognize yourself. You have to find your own swarup. That is the Shiva consciousness. Once you realize, once you got the prativijna. Now checking, if I check psychological relevance here, even today, people often search for happiness. Search for happiness where they are searching. In wealth, maybe, in success or status or whatsoever. Mystics tradition argue lasting fulfillment comes through inner transformation. If you got wealth or so-called the material success or a status, that will be out from the equation very soon once you achieve that one. So the lasting fulfillment comes through inner transformation, and this teaching remains highly relevant. Now, quickly jumping to the fourth point, union with absolute. Union with absolute, that's an important point in the mystical experience. The ultimate goal of mystical experience is union with the ultimate reality. Shiva Vilay, Shivamay, Shiva Samuchya. So different tradition use different names. Brahma is being used. We had a lot of discussion around that. Shiva, we are using absolute consciousness or divine consciousness. So different tradition within the Sadarthan Parampara, they are using different names. But the idea remains same. Idea remains same, or right idea remains similar. The individual realizes unity with the cosmic whole. That is the whole idea. Basically, it's an ocean and wave analogy. What example we have just given? A wave believes it's separate. Then it realizes it is actually the ocean itself. Similarly, the individual realizes, self-realizes, it is not separate from the ultimate reality. This realization is a liberation. Liberation is nothing else. And that realization is the Prativikya. So in Shaivism, union with Shiva does not mean becoming something new. If you find the enlightened one, the Saiva, enlightened Saiva around you, you will find he is not different. So union with the Shiva does not mean becoming something new. It means only the recognizing what one already is. This is why many Saiva school emphasizes recognizing rather than transformation. You are already divine. You are already Shiva. So you are already divine. You simply do not realize it. That was the problem. You are not realize it. Once you realize that one, then that is the liberation here. Very simple. So mystical experience lead to the liberation. It's very quite clear. Lead to the freedom from the ignorance. Lead to the freedom from the ego. And lead to the freedom from the suffering. And this is the ultimate goal. This is the ultimate goal of all the sects, all the branches. Ultimate goal of the yoga, ultimate goal of the meditation, ultimate goal of the tantra, ultimate goal of the Shaivism. So thus the mystical experience is not an optional extra. This is not optional extra. This is the culmination. This is the culmination of the entire spiritual journey. You need this experience. Without this experience, you are not liberated. So the final takeaway, I can conclude this slide like mystical experience is the highest goal of Saiva spirituality, where the individual realizes their identity with the divine consciousness represented by Shiva. Next slide. Now, having understood the mystical experience as the culmination of a spiritual practice, we will now move towards the next stage of the Saiva development and examine how mystical insight influenced later tantric and philosophical traditions. So let's come in the tantric expansion. So this is one of the most significant developments in the Indian spiritual history, because Tantra transformed Shaivism from a primarily philosophical and esoteric tradition into a comprehensive spiritual system. And that system, which involves rituals, symbolism, energy practices, mysticism, meditation, and Shakti worship also. That's why it's a significant development in the Indian spiritual history. In many ways, Tantra represents the mature flowing of the Saiva spirituality. Let's try to understand. Start with a simple questioning, simple discussion. What is Tantra? What is Tantra? What is the meaning of Tantra? So the word Tantra comes from the Sanskrit dhatu, Sanskrit root, the dhatu, tan. Guruji explained that one in the first chapter, what we are just going through. And the meaning of this dhatu in Sanskrit, in Amar Kos, to expand, to extend, to weave together. So it means expand. Expand what? What you are going to expand? So the consciousness, basically. So we can literally understand the literal meaning of Tantra. Like Tantra refers to a system of spiritual practices. It is a system of spiritual practices designed to expand consciousness. So the target, the goal, the ultimate goal of the Tantra is expand consciousness. Your level of consciousness. So expand how you are going to expand your consciousness. You will have to adopt some practices. Some spiritual discipline, some spiritual practices are required. So the system of spiritual practices designed to expand the consciousness, that is called Tantra. But unfortunately, this is same. Tantra often misunderstood today. You know, people are like, they're afraid of Tantra. And for that, even scholars are responsible who are not coming up, are giving the right and correct idea. Because many people associate Tantra only with secret rituals, only with the magic. They're thinking it's like something black magic, something like that. Or the sexual symbolism. They thought Tantra is like that only. But historically, Tantra is much broader. It includes philosophy. It includes meditation. It includes mantra. It includes yantra. It includes ritual worship. It includes the energy transformation. How big and beautiful it is. So we need to understand, like, if a question is naturally coming in my mind, at I'm just saying. So why do spiritual traditions develop new methods over time? New methods are coming because it is system, it is set of the methods, and new methods are coming. So because people seek more direct and transformative spiritual experiences. So Tantra is ever new. Now, starting with the first point, the ritual symbolism grows. On the slide we have this one. So earlier Vedic religion emphasized on the fire sacrifices, the yajna, and the external rituals, and the priestly ceremonies. There is a mediator, there is a pujari between you and God. Now Tantra is coming. And Tantra introduces a different approach. In Tantra, every ritual has symbolic meaning, symbolism, and every action reflects a cosmic process, nothing merely external. And there is no one between you and your deity, no mediation. I'm giving example of the symbolism, like linga, sibling, not merely a stone. Sibling represents infinite consciousness. It represents the creative power. It represents the creative reality. Similarly, yoni represents divine energy, the creation, the Shakti. And together they symbolize unity of consciousness and the energy. So there is no such a beautiful things than Sivlinga, if you try to understand. If you really understand the symbolism behind this symbol. That is the astitva, everything. So symbolic rituals in Tantra, even lighting a lamp symbolizes awakening consciousness. Even offering a flower symbolizes surrender of the ego. Even mantra symbolizes divine vibrations. So the rituals becomes a spiritual maps rather than the mechanical action. Now you can sense the beauty of this process. Second point, energy-based practices. So one of the Tantra's most important contributions is its understanding of the actual energy. Tantra teaches that human begins not merely physical bodies or thinking minds. We are also systems of spiritual energy. The energy is called Shakti. Shakti means power, energy, dynamic force. And the whole Kundalini concept that is given by Tantra only. The Tantric tradition teach the spiritual energy exists within every person. And this energy is called Kundalini. And it is often symbolized as a coiled serpent, you know, resting at the base of the spine, Muladhara, and through meditation, mantra, and yogic discipline, this energy can be awakened. We call it like a guru paya. Guru is required. So the concept of the chakras, Tantra developed that one. These are the subtle centers of the consciousness within the body itself. Starting with the Muladhara chakra or Swadhisthana, then Manipur, then Anahad, then Visuddhi, then Agya chakra, then Sastra. So each chakra represents the different dimensions of the consciousness and the spiritual goal. The spiritual goal set out by the Tantra is not physical power. The goal is expansion of consciousness, expansion of Vimar's awareness, expansion of the spiritual realization. Now the third point is the esoteric tradition. Before going into this point, esoteric tradition. What is the literal meaning of the esoteric? Esoteric. Esoteric means hidden. Esoteric means inner. Esoteric means reserved for initiate. So many tantric teachings were transmitted direct from the teacher to the disciple. Initiation, Shakti path, through Diksha, through personal instruction. It is why, because spiritual knowledge was considered powerful and transformative. Everyone cannot hold. And that's why the importance of the Guru is central here in Tantra. The Guru is the extremely important. Guru, Guru explains symbolism. Guru guides practice. Guru protects the student from misunderstanding. And this creates a living spiritual tradition. Without a Guru, there is no way here. And why it is sacred? Why secrecy? Why it is Rahasya? Why would spiritual traditions keep some teachings private? The first thing is things are killed by Mahadev because prevent the misuse, to ensure the proper preparation, because anyone cannot hold that, and to preserve the sacred knowledge. Thus, the esotericism was often about the responsibility rather than the exclusion. That is very important to understand. Why it is Rahasyabad? It is Rahasyabad not for excluding the major part of the society. You cannot get this one. But it is because of the responsibility. And the fourth point is the Shakti emphasis. Now, the most revolutionary aspect of the Tantra, emphasis on Shakti. Gurudev always saying, Shakti is a book of Shiva, mouth of Shiva. He's always saying. Each word is echoing in my mind and consciousness all the time. So, earlier traditions often focus primarily on the masculine divine. You know, we going into the Vedas, Indra, Varuna, Soma, main deities. Rudra also there. But you can feel that when the more focus on the masculine divine, Tantra replaces the extraordinary importance. Tantra places extraordinary importance on Shakti, feminine. Shakti is divine energy. Shakti is creative power. Shakti is the dynamic reality. Without Shakti, Shiva remains inactive. Gurudev always reciting whenever he used to teach us in its physical form. From the Ananda Lahari, Shiv Shakti Yukto Yadi. If Shiv is not with the Shakti, then Shiv becomes Sava. But this is one of the most important tantric teachings. And then coming up with the Shiva and Shakti relationship, Tantra teaches Shiva, pure consciousness, Shakti, dynamic energy, and they are inseparable. A famous tantric statement says, Shiva without Shakti is Sav. Meaning without energy, consciousness cannot manifest. Philosophically, if I translate that one, philosophically, without energy, consciousness cannot manifest. So this transformed Indian spirituality. Reality is no longer viewed as static, like in Sankar Vedanta. Reality becomes dynamic. Reality becomes creative. Shiva is always working dynamic. Panch Kritya Vidhaine. Always 5 acts of Shiva is happening all the time. He is not inert. Like Brahma of the Vedanta is inert. Here in our Saiva, system. Shiva is dynamic and creative. So the universe itself is understood as manifestation of Shakti, a play of divine energy. Now come to the next like Tantra and non-dual. Try to understand more deeper. Before going to the next slide, it's very important because I'm talking about the Sankar and the Tantra. That's why Tantra and non-dual. So Tantra develops powerful forms of non-dualism. It teaches the world is not separate from the divine. If Shiva is the divine, if Shiva is the real, then the manifestation of Shiva is real also, is divine also. Instead, matter is sacred, energy is sacred, body is sacred. This is very different from the traditions that reject the world. From Satyam Jagat Mithya. Here, Tantra is rejecting that one. Tantra is teaching the world itself can become a path to liberation. So, Tantra transforms the Shaivism profoundly. Shiva becomes cosmic consciousness, Shakti becomes cosmic energy, and together they create reality, sustain reality, re-observe reality. And it becomes the foundation for the Kasmir Shaivism. It becomes foundation for the Sakt tradition. It becomes foundation for the yoga, Tantra yoga. So the final takeaway I'm giving you from this discussion on this slide. Tantric expansion represents the culmination of the Shaiva tradition, integrating the philosophy, rituals, energy, meditation, and mystical experience into a unified path of liberation. It's beautiful. Now, coming to the next slide. Let's come. The Shakti concept. So once we understand the Tantric expansion of the Shaivism, now we move to the concept of Shakti itself by the blessings of GuruDev. And examine why divine energy becomes central to later Shaiva philosophy. So let's try to understand it. We discussed like a Tantric expansion and saw how Tantra introduced ritual symbolism, energy-based practices, esoteric traditions, a strong emphasis on Shakti. Now we focus on one of the most profound concepts. One of the most profound concepts in Shaivism and Tantra is Shakti. If Shiva represents consciousness, Shakti represents energy. If Shiva is the stillness behind existence, Shakti is the dynamic force that makes existence possible. In many ways, understanding Shakti is essential for understanding the complete meaning of Shaivism. You need to understand the Bhairav and Bhairavi both. So let's come. Ask a question yourself. What does the word Shakti mean? Shakti, the power, energy, capacity, dynamic force. What coming in the mind when we speak Shakti? So in Indian philosophy, Shakti is not merely a goddess among the many goddesses. We have holy god system, Rather than Shakti is the fundamental energy of the universe, the cosmic energy. Everything that moves, grows, evolves, or exists is possible because of Shakti. Because of Shakti only. Now it's a very interesting question I'm going to ask. Can energy exist without consciousness? And can consciousness act without energy? And this is the question Gurudev is indicating, asking. That is, these questions lie at the heart of the Saiva philosophy. Divine feminine energy. So let's contemplate on these questions and think about the divine feminine energy. One of the Tantra's most revolutionary contributions in the recognition of the feminine as a cosmic principle. In many ancient societies, masculinity was often associated with the power. It's very important. In the ancient society or in the most of the society, power is associated with the masculinity. But Tantra is and feminine principles were sometimes secondary, always. In society also we can see. But how beautiful Tantra is. Tantra is calling Shakti. Tantra is giving power to the divine feminine. Tantra is teaching the feminine is not secondary. Tantra is teaching the feminine is cosmic energy itself. So Shakti represents creativity. Shakti represents transformation. And Shakti represents dynamism. Shakti represents manifestation. Without Shakti, no manifestation at all. I'm giving you some backgrounds. Many scholars believe that ancient India preserved a strong tradition of mother goddess worship, fertility cults, and the feminine divinities. And these traditions likely influenced the later development of the Shakti worship. For example, we have a Shakti, we have the feminine goddess like Durga, Kali, Parvati, Lalita, Tripura Sundari. Yeah? We got many. So these are not separate entities only. They are the expressions of the one cosmic Shakti. If we ask question why these energy often symbolized as feminine, Shakti ko feminine क्यों symbolize? Why we are connecting Shakti with the feminine? This is a very important question. The regions Gurudev taught us. The indication is coming through birth and creation that is linked with the femininity, the nourishment, the transformation, the regeneration. Thus, the feminine symbol becomes a symbol of creative power of the existence. The creative force, Shakti as the creative force. Shiva by himself represents a pure consciousness, absolute stillness, the static. You can see the spiritual symbolism of the Kali. Shiva is just lying and the Kali is on the top of Shiva. So the base is the consciousness and the Shakti is standing, the manifestation is on the base. So Shiva himself represents pure consciousness, absolute stillness, but the consciousness alone does not create the universe. For creation to occur, energy must become active. You need an active energy for creation. The potential energy cannot do the creation, cannot do the manifestation. And that energy, the active energy, the kinetic energy, the dynamic energy of the cosmos is the Shakti. So I'm giving one analogy, like imagine electricity, giving example from electricity. So electricity may exist, but without a device or expression, it remains inactive. This example Gurudev gave me, the fan one. So you are switching on, then the fan, the movement of fan that is showing you, that is giving you electricity is there. But electricity was already there. So electricity may exist, that was there or not there. But without a device or expression, the fan is expressing that one. Otherwise, it remains inactive. Similarly, Shiva is potential. All the Shaktis is the Shakti of Shiva only. He is the only proprietor of all the Shaktis. But Shiva is potential and Shakti is the expression. Shiva potential, Shakti expression. It's quite clear. And together they create experience and the existence. That's why they are inseparable. That's why the concept of the Yamala Rupam, Ardhanarishwara. So Shiva as a dynamic, Shakti as a dynamic principle. Third point. Everything in the universe is constantly changing. But both are saying the same thing. We are with them up to here. Everything is changing. We are also saying yes, changing. But then philosophical differences are there. So everything in the universe is constantly changing. Season is changing. Bodies grows and old. The stars are born and die. Thoughts are rise and disappears. This dynamic aspect of the reality is understood as Shakti only. This is happening due to Shakti only. I'm giving you the comparative. Like Shiva, stillness, Shakti, movement. Shiva, consciousness, Shakti, energy. Shiva, transcendental, Shakti, manifest. Shiva, potential, Shakti, expression. So neither is superior. Both are necessary. Neither. No one is superior. Shakti is the expression of Shiva. So this is very important to understand. This idea transforms the Indian spirituality. Reality is no longer seen as static. Reality becomes living. Reality becomes dynamic. Reality becomes creative. Thus the Shakti explains evolution. Shakti explains transformation. Shakti explains creativity. Shakti explains change. Modern relevance also, if you think, what drives change in the world? Energy, creativity, the action, the movement. And these all represent Shakti. Shakti represents these all dimensions. So Shakti is driving the world. So this makes the concept surprisingly relevant even today. Even today it is relevant. Now we are at a very important, most important point. Shakti is essential to Shaivism. The fourth point, the last one. Many people mistakenly think Shaivism is only about Shiva. It's very important to understand. Shaivism is not only about Shiva. But the advanced Shaiva philosophers or the advanced Shaivites, they teaches Shiva and Shakti are inseparable. Shiva becomes Shakti. It's a self. Without energy, consciousness remains inactive. Without Shakti, Shiva cannot manifest. So Shiva Shakti unity, that is the highest reality. The highest reality is not Shiva alone, not Shakti alone. The highest reality is their union. There is a story like when Adi Shankar was more into Shiva practices, he rejected Shakti. He is only into the Shiva practice. Then the Shakti appeared. In Kasi, Gurudev used to, give those stories also. But we have already running out of time. So this union symbolizes consciousness and energy, spirit and matter, stillness and movement, transcendence and manifestation. So this idea becomes central in Shaivism. Kasmir ShavismI, in Tantra, in Yoga. So I'm giving you the final takeaway. Sakti is not merely a goddess. She is the living energy of existence itself. In Shaivism, ultimate reality is understood through the inseparable union of Shiva, means consciousness, and Shakti, is energy. So let's come to the next slide. The cosmic creation. The cosmic creation we learned about, we talked about, we witnessed the concept of Shakti right now, as the divine feminine energy and the dynamic force of the universe. Now the cosmic creation, we are very close to understanding the cosmic creation now. How the universe originates, evolves, and continues to exist through the interaction of the Shiva and Shakti. Unlike many religious traditions that describe creation as one-time event, but the Saiva philosophy sees creation, even we are calling it like a manifestation, as a continuous process, as a dynamic process, cyclic process, and ever-present process, Saswat. If Shiva is Saswat, his Jagat is also Saswat. If there is no end and beginning of Shiva, then there is no end and beginning of his universe, because Shiva is the universe only. This is only the Unmesh and Nivesh. Yes, Unmesh and Nivesh. Yeah. Shiva is projecting himself, and Shiva is, you know, absorbing himself. That is happening. This is the cycle. Now the question arising, very simple question. How did universe come into the existence? So different cultures have different answers. Some traditions describe a creator God creating the universe from nothing. That is being, rejected by the Saiva of Kasmir. If someone is creator, then who is the creator of that creator? Then this cycle will go on. And from nothing, how you can create something? Some scientific theory explains the universe through the cosmic evolution. The Big Bang theory is coming into the play. But the Indian philosophy often approaches the question differently. Instead of asking who created the universe, it asks, what is the relationship between the consciousness and the existence? And this leads us direct to the Shiva Shakti model of the creation. So we gave our Saiva gurus, scholars, they gave the Shiva Shakti model of the universe. So let's start with the first point, universe from union. So in Saiva and Tantra philosophy, creation does not emerge from a separate creator standing outside the universe. Instead, the universe emerges from the interaction of the Shiva, pure consciousness, absolute reality, infinite awareness, and the Shakti, energy, power, manifestation, and creativity. So the symbolism of union, this union is not merely physical, it is metaphysical. It represents consciousness and energy, stillness and movement, potential and expression, and together they generate all existence. I can give you analogy for understanding. Think of musician and music. Musician and music. Music represents expression. Music represents expression. And without musician, there is no music. So without music, the musician remains unexpressed also. Similarly, Shiva, pure potential, and Shakti, creative expression. The universe emerges from their relationship. That's why the linga and yoni symbolism is coming, the Sivalinga. This is also why the Sivaling symbol become very important, because it represents unity of opposites, creative harmony. It represents the source of existence. It is not merely the biological creation, rather than a cosmic creation itself, the manifestation itself. Now the dynamic process. Creation is a dynamic process. Many traditions imagine creation as a past event. Shaivism sees creation, the manifestation, differently. Shaivism is thinking creation is happening right now, always. Manifestation is right now. And when you are at the right now, when Krishna is saying, Samayo mein main vartaman hu. So when your consciousness at the right now, when you are out of the, you are a transcendent. So the universe is constantly changing. Stars born, stars die, galaxies evolve, living beings emerge and disappear. Everything is in motion. Everywhere, everything is motion, everything is changing all the time. So Shakti as a dynamic energy, this movement is understood as the activity of the Shakti. Shakti is playing, it's play of the Maya. No? Here in Shaivism, the concept of Maya is something different than the Vedanta. So Shakti is motion, Shakti is creativity, Shakti is transformation, and Shakti is evolution. Nothing remains static. Everything participates in the cosmic becoming. So, coming to the cosmic dance of Shiva, the Nataraja, Shiva as a cosmic dancer. So, if you saw the image, the symbolism of the Nataraj, Shiva dance within a circle of fire. So, that tandav, that represents creation, preservation, destruction, concealment, and liberation. All 5 acts of Shiva. That is the 5 cosmic acts of Shiva. Srishti, Sthiti, Sanghar, Tirodhan, and Anugrah. So creation is not static. Creation is a cosmic dance. And the continuous creation. Creation is, the better word is manifestation. GuruDev loves this word, manifestation. So manifestation is continuous. This is one of the most unique features of the Indian cosmology. Creation is not a single event. It has no fixed beginning. Instead, the universe unfolds continuously. The cyclic time. Indian tradition often view time as a cyclic. Examples, day and night, birth and death, seasons. These are the cosmic cycles. So, Srishti, Sthiti, Sanghar occurs repeatedly. So, it's going like that. So in Shaivism, the universe is continuously emerging from and returning to Shiva. Unmesh and nimesh is happening. It is a perpetual process of manifestation. There is no beginning, no end. That's why, if I say like, we don't believe in Big Bang, here the unmesh and nimesh is happening. So the balance of forces, here the last point, the universe exists because of the balance, the dynamic equilibrium. Day and night, life and death, expansion and contraction, consciousness and energy. In Saiva philosophy, this balance is represented by Shiva and Shakti. Neither dominates, both cooperate, both complement each other. So this teaches an important lesson. Reality is not based on conflict. Reality is based on complementarity. Opposites are not enemies. That's a very important message. Opposites are not enemies. They complete one another. The concept of Ardhanarishwar, half Shiva, half Shakti. This symbol teaches us masculine and feminine, they are together. Consciousness and energy together. Stillness and movement together. Potential and kinetic energy. So they are inseparable. So now let's come to the final takeaway for this slide. In Saiva philosophy, cosmic creation is the eternal dance of consciousness and energy, continuously manifesting, sustaining, and transforming the universe. So for today, this one only. Let's close this one with Bharavastava. So I'm going to recite Mahamaheshwara Charya, our Abhinav Guptapad, Rachit Bharavastava in the end. Atha Bharavastava व्याप्त चराचर भाव से सम चिन्मयमेकमनन्तमनादिं भैरवनाथमनाथ शरण्यं तन्मयचित्ततया हृदवन्दे अन्मयमेतदशेषमिदानीम् आतिमं तमनुग्रह सत्या चमचमहेश सदैव ममात्मा सात्मयं मम तेन समस्तम् स्वात्मनि विस्पगते त्वयि नाथे तेन न संसृतिभीति कथास्ति सतस्वपि दुर्धर दुःख विमोहा रास विद्यायसु कर्म गणेषु अंतकमां प्रतिमादृशमेना क्रोध कराल विनिदेहि शंकर सेवन चिंतन धीरो ईशन भैरव तस्मूपोधव भवमय संभि धारित भूरित मिश्रा ऋतुयमांतक कर्म पिशाचर नाथ नमस्तु न जातु बिभेमि प्रोदित साध्य विबोध मरीचि प्रोषित विश्व पदार्थ सतत्वः भाव परामृत निर्भर पूर्णे हमारी नीति में मानस गोचर में तीय दैव क्लेश दशा तनुताप विधात्री नाथ तदैव मम त्वयि भेद स्तोत्र परामृत ब्रीजुदेति संकर सत्यमिदं व्रतदान स्नान तपो भवताप विदारी पापक शास्त्र परामृत चिंता यस्यन्ति चेतसि निर्मिति धारा नृत्यति गायति घृष्यति गाढम् संविधियं मम भैरवनाथ त्वां प्रियमाप्य सुदर्शनमेकं दुर्लभजन्य समयज्ञं वसुरपौषे कृष्ण दशाम्याम् अभिनव गुप्तः स्तवं करो येन विबुध भव मरु संतापम शमयति जटयति जनस्य दयालुः इति भैरव स्तोत्रम। जय गुरुदेव, हर हर महादेव। So thank you very much being part of this Jnana Yajna in the honor and memory of Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. I'm closing this meeting today. Thank you.